Oh, hello. This is Joe. This video is about the Stargaze tokenomics overhaul. Does Stargaze need to revise their tokenomics? Well, I tell you, but first, you must go down below and smash that like button, share the video, because I'm a content creator not employed by Stargaze. So this will be a very unbiased, independent video on Stargaze tokenomics. Thanks so much for joining. This will be a Stars tokenomics video. There's currently a proposal in Commonwealth from White Marlin discussing a four-part plan to address the sell pressure, which is due to the very high inflation, the market conditions, and also the competing interests on the platform, let's say. I know that already another YouTuber made a video about this. His video, not so good. I'll link it down below if you want to watch it, but be aware, watching too many of that YouTuber's videos will make you stupider and you won't be able to comprehend the more intelligent videos like mine. But at your own risk, you can watch that video down below. Here is Commonwealth, and I'll take you through the prop if you haven't read it. If you have read it, I'm sure you have opinions. Put them down below. This is not financial advice. We're talking about tokenomics. It's a very interesting situation because one of the advantages of running your chain like a DAO is that the community can make fundamental changes to the platform, the token, the governance structure. So I do like that we're able to even have this conversation and realistically change tokenomics if the community thinks it's a good idea. Before we get too deep into this, let me just tell you, I've been unbonding my stars tokens to buy NFTs. I don't even have enough stars to vote on the launchpad voting every week. So all my stars has been converted into NFTs. And if you haven't already heard, I use some of those stars to mint the #1 after the filter NFT in the whole collection. How about that? But here's White Marlin's post. It's from a week ago. It's a signaling prop. And he does have a more detailed version of this linked halfway through this governance proposal. And he lays out that this is a multi-step process. It will require 4 separate on-chain props to accomplish, as he wrote it out. But the concerns around the tokenomics will be achieved after the very first proposal. And the main culprit here for the performance of the stars token is the inflation, right? We want to reduce inflation because one of the purposes of inflation is to accommodate new people coming into the ecosystem. Well, we don't have that now. It's a bear market. Almost no chain has new people coming into the ecosystem, at least not as fast as they were a year ago. And this proposal, as written, would reduce total inflation by 62%, right? Current inflation is 33%. The new inflation percentage would be 11%. Well, that sounds really good. There will be some effects to this, maybe some undesired effects, which we'll get into in the video. But the #1 effect, if you're a passive staker of the token or even just a holder, is that there'll be a net staking yield of 11% compared to what it is today. Right now, the net staking yield is something like 1 or 2% in the negative. This, I guess, would bring it to somewhere in the 8 to 11% range in in the positive. This will encourage staking. Staking is very important on proof of stake chains. You have to incentivize tokens to secure the chain, whether it be a validator, self stake, or individual user looking for some passive returns or compounding rewards. So let's look at prop 1. Reduce inflation by 62%. Sounds great, right? Reduce inflation. It's going to send the price to the moon, right? Maybe. I don't think it will. But what it will do is reduce the amount of new tokens that are put into circulation. It's also going to reduce the amount of tokens that goes to the community pool. This is going to be accomplished with a hard one-time reduction in emissions. The way proof of stake works in Cosmos is that every single day, tokens are put into circulation, right? And something like 2 million stars a day, something like that. We'll look at it when we see the detailed spreadsheet on this. But this is going to affect primarily the community pool. The community pool is enormous for the Stargaze, for stars. And The reason why is up until this point, 50% of new tokens that were emitted into the ecosystem went into the community pool. Sounds good, right? Sounds like, oh, wow, Stargaze, we got this war chest. We could invest, we could incentivize artists and projects to come. You can't really spend the stars community pool because liquidity is so low. So any major spend, 10,000, 20,000 US dollars is going to have an immediate impact on the price in the direction that we don't want it to go. And, I'm not obsessed with token prices, but stars, like other layer one tokens in Cosmos, is needed to secure the chain. They have to have value in order to accomplish this. Stars is also used for governance. If the token price is very volatile, it's dipping, people can buy a whole bunch of stars tokens, vote on governance, right? It can be gamed. And that's an extreme situation. We're not there yet. The other thing stars needs to do for the platform is serve as money. People buy stars. Then NFT project comes out with a mint. Those stars are used to buy NFTs, which are a product. Whether you want to think of it as a product or not, it is. So team gets these stars. What do they do with them? They sell them to stable coins or Atom or whatever to pay themselves. Like, that's just how it works, right? NFT project creators are small businesses and they need to get paid, right? Whatever the price of the mint is, most of that's getting sold most of the time. So stars is money on the Stargaze blockchain. The purpose of it is to buy NFTs. Problem is it's losing its buying power, just like fiat currency, due to this crazy emissions, which, hey, in the beginning, at the genesis of the platform, probably needed very high emissions to accommodate people coming in, to incentivize validators to want to set up nodes on the chain, and also to pay for development, right? Inflation's not all bad. You need inflation, but you also need a way to offset it. As it trickles through the economy of the chain, it needs to get burned, locked up, maybe repurposed, right? So there's that. Stargaze does have a burn mechanism. The problem is, in relation to the amount of new tokens emitted, the burn is just really insignificant. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's really offsetting much inflation at all. So let's keep going through the proposal. Prop number 2. Use the current community pool funds to satisfy planned incentives. So some people are going to be worried, oh, you're cutting emissions. Are my rewards going to go away? No, they're just going to come from a different place. They're going to come from the bloated community pool. And this was my contribution to the prop. I always thought it was a no-brainer to use community pool funds to replace inflation as it scaled back. So I don't remember when White Marlin and I had this conversation, but I was like, why don't we just keep everything the same, but just turn off inflation and use community pools to temporarily replace that? People don't even need to know, right? People won't even care as long as those APRs don't change, whether you're a liquidity provider or staking. So that's my contribution to this prop. I did not work out the details that White Marlin did to put this together. I do know he was in contact with Shane Bonzi of Sunnyside Reapers, who's very active in Stargaze governance and an employee of Stargaze. And I'm sure there were a bunch of other people involved also. But prop number 2 is a little dicey for me. Yes, community pools should be used to replace inflation. And I'll argue this all day long because the community pool can't be spent otherwise. You can't have this one-time spend of, 5% of the community pool. Even if you want to, it's going to tank the price. It says, in a way that does not introduce sell pressure by allocating them for NFT staking and AMMs. I'm not going to argue with this yet. I don't think you could predict what people are going to do in the beginning when you adjust the tokenomics. You're taking a gamble there. And the reason why you're taking a gamble is that many people are very comfortable, even with the stars price, because they're accumulating more tokens. They're losing a boatload of money doing this, but they're staking their tokens and they see the number of tokens going up. I was doing the same thing. Turned out to be a really big mistake because the NFTs increased in value overall. compared to the money that's used to buy them. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to be giving people a net yield on their staking rewards, which is good. It should incentivize more staking. It might incentivize more selling. People might see this as a profit that they can take. And we don't know if Prop 1 and 2 is actually going to introduce new sell pressure, keep sell pressure the same, or diminish sell pressure. I have my own ideas. We'll talk about that later. But now, the incentives that were supposed to go to NFT staking and liquidity pools, which doesn't exist yet on the platform, this will be a new allocation. Future proposals will be needed once these expire. Great. I love proposals that expire. I think all laws and civilizations should expire and should be revisited. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But that's prop number 2, using community pool to replace the incentives that were fueled by inflation only. Prop number 3, lengthen the thirdening period by 3 years to retain the original planned supply cap. I don't know if I have an opinion on this. I don't see why we need to have the same planned supply cap now as what we had at Genesis. I don't know why that's important, but apparently it is. I think that proof of stake chains should remain flexible. Tokenomics should be revisited, every 6 months or every year, and tweaks should be made to match the needs of the platform users, the validators, the developers, and also to match the market conditions. I don't see why we can't do this on every Cosmos chain. Different chains will try different things. They'll adjust their maximum supply up or down. And then you'll have like a few chains that get the right idea for their platform, become the models, and then other chains can copy what worked for them, hoping that it works now for another chain. Kind of like a survival of the fittest of ideas. The best ideas will survive. The worst ideas will not. And another note on inflation. Stargaze is not the only platform to launch a token with ultra high inflation. Almost every token did this. Osmosis did it. Juno did this. Persistence did this. And Stars did this. Many others. Look at the price performance now. In order to reach the same price at their all-time highs, they're going to need a market cap way higher than what it was during peak bull market. And that's because more tokens are in circulation. So you tell me, is it reasonable to assume tokens will eventually reach their all-time highs in price? I don't know. And that's why it's dangerous just to passively stake and not have an interest in the tokenomics, because let's say you stake 10,000 Stars tokens and then a year later you have 20,000 Stars tokens. They still might not have the same total value that your original 10,000 Stars tokens had. And this has to do with the number of tokens in the total supply, whether it be circulating or otherwise. But yeah, I don't know why the supply cap of 4 billion is so important. I mean, we'll get to Prop 3 after we pass Prop 1 and 2. I'm sure these will all be up for debate. What I really would like is for some NFT creators, projects that have validators to take a very active role in this, because they have multiple interests at stake. They need to build community, right? Onboard new people to increase interest in their NFT projects. They have to make new NFT projects. They have to pay attention to the old ones to make sure those have trading volume, and they run the validator. So I would like to see more community validators. And by community validators, I just mean validators who also have skin in the game on the Stargaze platform. I don't believe most validators do, whether that's Cosmos Spaces, TSOS, Bad Kids, Rebels, Space Skellies, and Sunnyside Reapers, whoever it is. I'm missing a whole bunch, I'm sure. But yeah, that would be really important to further think through these subsequent props. I think Prop 1 is very cut and dry. You start somewhere, you cut inflation. Prop 2, now it's a little more vague because we don't know how we're going to exactly deploy the community pool right now, it seems. And then Prop 3 depends on Prop 1 and 2, right? Is it important to have a total supply cap of 4 billion? Why? Why can't we cut the supply cap? Why can't we end emissions right now? That would be my question. We could always increase the supply later, right? Why not? So, yeah, prop 3, I don't want to think too much about it until we get past 1 and 2, but let's go to prop 4. Prop 4 will adjust emission allocations between categories as needed. We're going to look at the categories. So, and the reasoning, yeah, I agree with some of this. Maybe I disagree with some of it. We'll visit this at the end, but let's look at the detailed analysis that White Marlin was nice enough to put together, and we'll dig into that a little bit. We're looking at what he calls the daily emissions bucket. I'm sure there's a better name for that. Jeez, bucket. But yeah, every day, new stars tokens are released into the ecosystem. And you could see that based on this chart, the daily emissions is roughly 2 million stars per day, 2 million stars. And a lot of that gets sold, right? Staking rewards, LP incentives, validator rewards, it's getting sold. And validators, you can't blame validators for selling rewards. They're running a business. They have to make money. And a lot of them have no interest in NFTs, right? That they're in the validator business, not the NFT business. But yeah, here's the bucket. Currently, 35% of the new block emissions goes to stakers, 50% goes to the community pool, 15% to a dev fund. Okay. The future state, I'm assuming this is after all props are passed. Staking is unaffected. 35% to staking. 35% of a lower number, by the way. Don't forget the total amount of block rewards is going to be reduced. So this is less staking rewards coming from daily emissions. The community pool will supplement that to make sure there's a net yield. So don't freak out with what I'm saying, and understand that the staking rewards are simply going to be sourced from a different set of tokens. Then 35% to NFT staking, 10% to AMMs. Those are liquidity pools. And that same YouTuber I talked about in the beginning, he just did a video on NFT liquidity pools. I'll link that down below as well. Even though that video will make you stupider just listening to him talk, you should watch it to fully grasp what NFT liquidity pools will look like and what they can do for the platform in terms of merging DeFi and NFTs, which is the future of NFTs, by the way. Only 5% will go to the community pool. Only 5%. And then 15% to the dev fund. The devs have to do dev things. So we're not going to cut from the devs. What I would like to see is the price of the token stabilize and even give a bump up a little bit so that the overall value of the dev fund, the community pool, increases even though less tokens are being dropped in there. That would be great for everybody. And we're going to look at prop number 1 again. Reduce daily inflation by 62%. All along, not all of the daily inflation was making its way into circulation unless there was a spend prop. So a lot of these tokens are basically out of circulation because we can't spend funds from the community pool without tanking the price, right? There's not enough people buying the token and holding it to offset a massive token dump. And for a massive token dump, you could play around in osmosis with the slippage and you could see, selling 1 million stars in one go is enough to substantially move the price. If you're going to do any kind of major development or major incentives program, you're going to spend a lot more than 1 million stars. So already a lot of the tokens that were emitted are out of circulation. They're not affecting the sell pressure. But now that we're going to move them into circulation, we might not have a drastic reduction in sell pressure. We might have an initial increase in sell pressure as people adjust, their holdings and their activity on the chain for the new tokenomics. We might have some people who just hate that tokenomics is being changed, and they might just dump all their stars and leave and go to another platform. That's totally fine. That's up to them. However, the fact that community funds are going to be used to supplement incentives, whether it be staking or otherwise, is a sign that Stargaze is really the only chain that's serious about using the community pool to benefit the actual community. These are going to go to stakers. These are not going to go to a a team of devs coming from another ecosystem. They're going to build one half-ass product, get paid, leave, and then just go build the same product somewhere else that Stargaze users are not going to use. That happens, by the way. It happened on Juno, right? So, and I'm sure it's happened in other places. Using the community pool funds to me is perfectly reasonable because they're community funds. They came from the community, right? Instead of going to the community as staking rewards, they got dropped into this bucket. What a terrible White Marlin, you got to work on that. They got dropped in this bucket and they're out of circulation. So imagine if we didn't have this massive community pool, if all of these incentives were increased and less was going to the community pool from the start, we might be looking at like less than a half a cent per stars token. And if the stars token is dropping, it is harder to get projects to want to build on Stargaze because they're going to get paid in stars. Why would you want to start up? Let's say you're going to launch an NFT collection. You start 4 months ahead of time. You're building community. You're working on the art. You're marketing. You're doing giveaways, waiting for that big mint day where you're going to get paid in stars. The stars token could tank 50% between, the time you set up your project, start building, to the time you actually get paid. That's risky, super risky for creators, super risky for community members who are going to stick out the timeline, the roadmap of that project until mint, right? So yeah, community pool, I'm all in favor of. Trying to predict what people will do with their tokens, it's dicey. Some people might sell more because now they have a net yield on their staking rewards. Some people will buy and then stake because they weren't getting rewards before. Now they actually are getting a real yield. I know people like that. They refuse to hold a single stars token because of the inflation. Maybe those people now will open a position, maybe a sizable position in stars. Maybe those people will buy more NFTs because they're getting, now they have a position in stars. They're earning APR. They can use their rewards to buy NFTs. They can keep their stake sitting, accumulating those rewards. They use their rewards to splash around on the platform. Possible, very possible. That's good for the platform, in my opinion. What else could happen? Some people, like I said, might just get upset that the tokenomics are changed. Oh, this isn't good. Are they going to change the tokenomics every 2 months? I'm out of here. Maybe. Some creators might not like this. Some passive stakers, even though they're getting liquidated and getting murdered by the inflation, might not like this, even though it's against their own interest to change what they're doing. Right? So, yeah, you never know how people are going to react. And I explained this. There's a concept. It's called the. It was coined by a poker player, old school poker player, played live poker, and he wrote a couple books, Mike Caro, and he came up with this law when he was explaining poker behavior. He called it the law of loose wiring, and he explains exactly what he means using an elaborate example where if one thing gets changed, it might have a chain effect on the behavior of many other people who, although they plan to do one thing, because there's one change right before they made their decision, they might take an opposite decision and then influence all the people that are left to act and decide after them. And you end up with drastically different results than you did if that original thing was not changed. In this case, that thing is the tokenomics. There could be some undesired effects here. Don't know. We have to put it into play. The good thing about Stargaze is we could just change it. Community's involved, right? Shane is very, very open to ideas. He spent weeks going back and forth with White Marlin and others. Okay, put it on chain. Community decides. If it's not working, 3 months later, let's go back to the original way. Let's go back, right? That's possible with Stargaze. And just to illustrate the point that you cannot spend much money out of the community pool without making the token price suffer, I'm in osmosis here. I put in 2 million stars into a swap. And this is roughly 1 day's worth of emissions on the platform. It's $32,000. That's pennies in the crypto world, even for a small cap token like stars. And you could see the price impact is 5%. 5%, one swap, 1 day's worth of emissions. Um, that doesn't even include how people will react to a 5% candle down on the charts. Might cause more people to sell. Maybe some people will buy the dip, but what if we're doing this every day, right? The token gets punished. Token gets punished. So we need a reason for people to buy stars tokens. People need to buy it. Adjusting the inflation is not enough. So let's get into some solutions, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll wrap this up. All right, let me leave you with some closing thoughts. I actually recorded this piece earlier and realized it didn't make any sense. So I'm going to give it take two. And I put some notes down to make sure I hit everything I want to hit so that people in the comments, you don't kill me for fudding the stars token and, call me an anarchist for wanting to change the tokenomics every couple months, which I do, by the way. I do that, by the way. So let's, the last thing I said was that you need a reason to buy stars tokens. I wholeheartedly believe that inflation does address part of the issue with the price. And overall, the reason why we're worried about the price is not to pump our bags, but because it's a proof of stake chain. The layer one token has to be valuable to secure the chain. Otherwise, everything built on top of it is in jeopardy of going to zero. NFTs are assets, and the layer one token actually needs to be more valuable than the assets on the chain. That's one. That's one. So um, I jotted down some notes about some reasons to buy stars. You want to buy stars? Number one, to stake. Now we're getting that net staking yield, pretty sweet, 11% difference. Great. The other thing is you want people to buy stars to buy and trade NFTs to accelerate the burning of the tokens because of that transaction burn that Stargaze has implemented. I totally believe Stargaze is way ahead of the game with its tokenomics compared to Osmo, Juno, and some of the others because they do have this burn. This burn is going to offset some of the emissions. I don't think it's a lot right now, but in a peak bull market, that burn might be, 5, 10, 20x on some days, especially when you got these big collections minting out, right? After the filter, TSOS, all these collections create a flurry of secondary market activity for sometimes weeks after the mint. So yeah, need to do anything we can on the platform to cause more tokens to be burned. And one of those things, we need better NFT projects. I like the NFT projects on Stargaze. I really do. There's nothing like Stargaze, by the way. The cultural hub of the Cosmos ecosystem is Stargaze. Devs listen to everybody. Shane listens to everybody. Communities involved. It's a true community chain. We need better projects, and that will come. People will get better ideas on how to use NFT technology. There'll be games. There'll be DeFi NFTs. There'll be IRL perks assigned to different NFTs. There'll be subsequent collections of creators who did a first mint that were really popular, and then they go take it a step further to make it even better collection, right? Maybe Pixel Wizards, right? Something like that, that ultra successful and hasn't even really gotten started yet, right? Brand new creator to the platform just a couple of months ago. So yeah, we need better collections. We need much better collections. I also think we need more community validators, right? NFT projects that can also serve as validators. I know not all of them are fit to do this. They need that in their skill set, but the advantage to having a project also become a validator is that as you're building community, you're also able to disseminate governance information to have a more involved uh, base of active voters and contributors to Commonwealth. The Stargaze team is small. They have a lot of good ideas, but the communities potentially could be hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people, ideally. The best ideas might come from the community that then the devs have to implement. And that's kind of how Stargaze runs, right? I heard Shane say something where they build a platform for NFTs and then they just ask the community, what do you want us to build on here? Add this feature, change the tokenomics, whatever it is. And the best ideas might come from someone who doesn't have the ability to implement it. You need people involved in governance. And the NFT project validators, to me, really further set Stargaze apart from other chains. Let's talk about the last two things. On the spreadsheet, the the revised tokenomics, the emissions from that data table showed a percentage of emissions going to AMM rewards, a percentage of emissions going to NFT staking. I don't know how NFT staking is going to look. I like the idea. NFTs technically are assets. You should be able to use them to secure the chain in some way, or some other similar method where it's staking, but not exactly the same as the fungible layer one token, right? We'll talk about NFT staking another day. AMMs. I personally think that Stargaze should stop everything it's doing and roll out these AMMs as fast as possible, collaborate with any other chain they have to get these implemented. And I mentioned earlier, Don Kryptonium did a recent video on NFT liquidity pools, AMMs. They are absolute game changer. They give value, immediate utility to the floor priced NFTs. They encourage trading and they generate fees for the platform. That's the most important thing. A percentage of those fees will go to those supplying liquidity. There are whale wallets out there, right? There are whale wallets holding NFTs. They're just sitting in a wallet. Well, what if, just like on Osmosis, you supply liquidity with your tokens, you could supply liquidity with your NFTs? Instant utility gives people more options for trading. More options means more transactions, more interest. There's more to talk about. Word spreads quick in the crypto world, good and bad. We've seen that in Cosmos. And these AMMs, I think, would be an absolute game changer. They're probably extremely complicated. I get that. But not only would this generate fees from the platform, you could assign a percentage to be burned just like the normal NFT secondary sales burn, right? And I don't think you need to incentivize NFT liquidity pools very much. I think that there should be a fee, 1% fee, 2% fee, whatever it is for these NFT liquidity providers, and then 1% burn, 2% burn, something like that. People will pay it. People will pay it. It will raise the floor price, especially for the good collections that trade high volume. Even if it's not continuous, if they go in and out of fashion, this will really set the platform apart, put them light years ahead of some of the other chains, you know, outside the Cosmos, even whether it be Polygon, Cardano, Solana. I think Stargaze has a chance to out feature them. Now, whether or not they could out volume them, we'll see. We need another market cycle, right? We're not gonna all of a sudden explode in volume when the market conditions are terrible. But yeah, AMMs to me would be the biggest game changer. And then the other thing, which I think I've mentioned a bunch of times, people just don't really talk about it, is someone who does not have a wallet and knows nothing about NFTs should be able to go on Stargaze, buy an NFT with a credit card, have that NFT sent to someone who does have a wallet. Hey, happy birthday, sent you an NFT. Here's your bad kid. If they know their Stargaze name, this can be done without the purchaser ever using crypto, right? Buy it with a credit card. Again, any transaction like that, a percentage of the fee can be burned. A percentage of the fee can be returned to stakers. So, yeah, just some closing thoughts. Inflation, it's great to address inflation. I believe that all the tokens have the opportunity to be dynamic with their tokenomics. Stargaze obviously is going to be ahead of everyone because they also have the burn. I know Osmosis is doing it. Osmosis is just such a completely different platform from Stargaze. I don't even know. They could both be successful. They could both be unsuccessful, or one could succeed, the other could fail, even if they implement the same exact changes to the tokenomics. So we'll see. It's a Stargaze video. I only want to talk about Stargaze. Appreciate everyone watching. And yeah, we'll see how this works out. Let me know down below how you will vote.